Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here in the Lex Gray Show. Today's video will be about using oracles in solo RPGs. Now, I've talked about this before many times on my channel, but just in case a lot of those older videos have fallen through the cracks of the YouTube algorithm, I'll consider this a refresher. And I hope this finds some newcomers to my channel. Let's begin. To start, I'd say that this video is for the fellow solo RPG enthusiast, whether you are a veteran or new to the hobby. The hobby itself is playing an RPG solo, by yourself. I expect you have general knowledge of tabletop RPGs and the existence of oracles. So I hope this does indeed help you if you are at an impasse, whether you can't find an oracle or not sure what kind of oracle to use. And that leads to my next step. Decide on which type of oracle to use. There are countless types of oracles out there, or I should say countless oracles out there. I, for one, am a big customer, whether it's free or pay itch.io. They're not a sponsor, just a fan. There's also DriveThruRPG that most likely will have paid, but itch.io is, in my opinion, the better one to use because a lot of them are from fans, fellow players, game developers. The two choices you really have when you boil down to the roots of oracles is a vague oracle, one that's universal for any setting. Then you have setting-specific oracles, oracles that are made even for specific games, like Ironsworn. Ironsworn, the solo RPG, has its own oracle built into the system. You can't really use it outside of it. With some effort you could, but essentially it's made for the game. In terms of vague oracles, I can recommend one. It is the one-page mythic. I cut out part of it to show I've used this many times on my channel. This is by far my favorite, and this is all I need. This gives you context. It has a D100 list of actions and descriptions. The original one-page mythic has its own table for answering yes or no. There's also yes and, which is a very strong result. There is yes, which is the standard yes. There is no, then there is a no and. So, a strong no, depending on a D100 roll. And there's also likelihood, the probability of your question to the oracle that is eventually answered with a dice roll. So that is a generic universal oracle. Setting specific ones, there are many out there. Don't really have one to show you, but obviously if you type in an oracle for sci-fi, for cyberpunk, for dark fantasy, for film noir, anything like high fantasy, low magic, you will find a setting based oracle, which gives you that extra step, a little less work on your part, but you still need to put the generated context within your game. So it doesn't hold your hand entirely. It will just give you the recipe, and it's your turn to cook it. While I believe in the universal ones, because again, the one-page mythic can be used for anything, it takes a bit more effort because you have to spring an idea context off of these keywords, and I still prefer that. Okay, next is what type of oracle? Now you're probably asking yourself, well, we just talked about that. What type? Well, there are different ways for oracles to show themselves. There are tarot cards, which I used in my recent one-shot holiday special. Tarot cards give you that idea. They are also typically vague, but tarot cards can be very universally, they can be very setting specific, like dragon tarot cards. They can be Fallout tarot cards. They can be pony tarot cards. And tarot cards are not typically made for solo RPGing, but they are extremely useful. Hit and miss in my opinion, but if you find one that's kind of near your setting, like fantasy-based, like dragon tarot cards, if you're playing D&D, that could be of help. You can look at the text, you can look at the picture, the image, and that can typically spring an idea off of your mind. And then there are tables. Tables are the most popular one. These will be in either, again, the universal ones or setting-specific. Table solar oracles are super handy because they are either D6 list, D8, D10, D12, D20, D100 list. There are so many out there. The tables are typically the most popular. The next one that's probably the least favored within my channel here is AI. AI can be a burden for many. It could be too much of a hand holding, but in my opinion, there are times I enjoy it being necessary, and then often I don't use it. So again, I'm kind of split on the idea. Talked about this before in a very extensive video. But to basically summarize, I use AI when necessary, like the image behind me, but recently I've been playing traditionally and not really using AI much. But I have to be, as a disclaimer, I've used AI in my channel as a GM, as an Oracle, as a player, even to experiment. All very fun, but to me, when I use AI a little too often and become too reliant on it, so then I lose that creativity and becomes a writer's block when I try to step away from it. And there's like a weak buffer I need to get back in the game. I'm not using AI. So tread lightly if you want to use AI. You can use AI as an Oracle, not as a GM. That's probably a good best of both worlds, where you want the AI to give you those generate those context, and it can give you setting specific. So it can just give you 2 words, a short sentence, and that's it. You do everything yourself. It's just giving you information when you don't want to rely on it as an entire GM, entire actual game master. But it depends on the instructions too. So whether that's Gemini, GPT, Anthropic, whatever. And those, I would say, are probably the most 3 methods of oracles. Next is how much. There are a lot of free oracles out there. There's like the Juice Oracle, I think it's free. The one-page mythic obviously costs a few bucks. I think I found the one-page mythic on drive-through, FYI. If you use AI, you probably most likely will pay, or if you can use it for free on Hugging Face, that's a free way to get a hugging chat, as they call it. That's a free AI. You can download your own AI through, I think it's called GPT-4All is a very popular method. There are many ways to get AI for free, but typically the ones you want to that give you the best results, which is also debatable, is $20 a month for GPT or Gemini. But in any event, look for the free ones first. Test out the waters, see if it's for you, which oracle you like, and I guarantee you'll find there's thousands of free ones on itch.io. I'm sure you'll find a either setting specific one or a universal oracle. Next is when to implement them. This is the biggest question. Should you use it when you are at an impasse in the story, like you just don't know? You want to ask the question whether it's open-ended question or if it's closed, a simple yes, no. Do you want to use the oracles, an oracle, for every other moment or only when needed? That is entirely up to you. I cannot really give you an answer for this. For me, I think it's dependent on the situation, the severity of the situation. For an example, my recent one-shot, I used the tarot cards every so often, not like every other scene or every single moment, but I used them perhaps, it's hard to say, I didn't really keep track, maybe every 5-10 minutes I drew a card. It was mostly from the environmental perspective, not the player's choice. Obviously, the player's choice is yours, but if there was some monumental moment I felt cannot just be answered by myself that would be considered bias, I draw the card. So that's when I would use the tarot card. Like trying to figure out what an NPC would do, or what the party discovers in a certain newly discovered area. That's when you can use it. Now, the next one is the advantage of using oracles. This is when I believe it would help you if you have writer's block. This can be a huge problem for a lot of solo RPG hobbyists out there. It can just discourage play. If someone if they've been having a tough time trying to push a story ahead by themselves, the game itself, then they might step away from it, take a break, or lose interest because of that writer's block. Now, the writer's block meaning you are writing a story to an extent, not a full novel. You could, after a lot of, I would assume authors out there use this method to create the story, then write a novel following based on what happened. But during play, writer's block mainly means when you just cannot think of some context. That's when you need a table. So again, tables can really help in those moments. If the moment is a burden, use an oracle. Oracles can help you spring ideas. Like I said, tarot cards is a great way. It really springs ideas from very vague cards. Even use Magic the Gathering cards, like the instant cards, location cards, sorcery, The items, the monsters, creature cards, a lot of those I've been using from time to time as the simple oracle. So I use them not to play the actual Magic game, but as tarot cards, literally. Plus, they, I believe, in my opinion, they're better than a generic tarot card because they have text, they have imagery, and they have descriptions of the card itself. They got numbers on there. You can use the numbers to whatever advantage you feel. And all in all, using oracles encourages creativity. I believe it strengthens your mind and works as an extension of things you already know, especially the universal ones. I'm not talking down about the setting-specific oracles, but the universal ones, it all comes from here. These universal methods, the keywords, are just keys to the engine, and you develop the actual context, whether it'll be in a few seconds, a few moments, or minutes. That, I feel, is what is the largest benefit of using an oracle in a solo RPG. Now, I need to mention this. Don't use too many. Don't have like a stack of books or oracles printed out. Don't like 3 or 4 or 5 or more. It can really become a hassle because then you're flipping through pages more often than actually just playing the game with 1 or 2 oracles. So in my opinion, have at least 1, but no more than 2 or 3. It will become a burden. And try, if you are very new to solo RPGing and you don't have, if you don't feel that you don't have that creative flair just yet, use a setting specific as an anchor to help you develop that creativity for when you play the game. All right? Okay, so to close, if oracles become a burden, improvise. Just bounce ideas off the narrative. Think about the environment, think about what your character is doing, what would make the most sense, but not be too flat. You want it to make sense, but it is a fantasy setting. Typically, it is a fictional setting. You want it to be out there, not, well, it could be too absurd if you want. It's entirely your story. So let it run wild. Again, improvise. This might not be for everybody. Not everyone's an improviser. I, for one, it depends on the day, depends on my mood, depends how I am. But I feel like in videos, I don't use oracles in my one-shots. I just like to improvise. I'll consider what the character is doing, consider the world setting, what is happening around the character and the environment where they are, what the conditions are, and then what would be the most chaotic, depending if chaos is necessary, or if things are calm, what would make the most sense to lead to a twist. That's what I mean. So your character, it's a dark fantasy, so in dark fantasy, for example, you have skeletons, zombies, the undead. Your character is doing a classic dungeon crawl. You approach the dungeon per se. It is a large gate. It is open. Well, why is it open? Someone's already in there. So you might run into another party, or that party's been trapped, and you might inadvertently have to rescue them, or they might have been cursed, so they are wandering the dungeon with the other monsters. So you might have to you might eventually encounter them. So keep that in the back of your mind, but just know when to spring it. I also encourage, if you don't want to use actual tables, one of my most favorite oracles is a D100 oracle. I've talked about this many, many, many times. This might be a broken record to some of my viewers right now, but this idea came from the Random Encounter show of Deathstalker 5. I saw his video a long time ago. That's what really got me to the oracle. You basically, it works for both open-ended and closed-ended questions. So a slightly more complicated questions for the oracle if you don't know what's going on to get an answer, or a simple yes/no question, like is that door locked? Now, what you do, grab D100, D10 and a D100. You pitch the question to the oracle, again, whether it's open or closed, and you consider the probability of it. If you just don't know, if you're not too sure, from 1 to 100, or typically within 10 to 90% chance, have it at 50%. That's it. That way, it's really out of your character's control. You just don't know. It could happen either way. You roll the dice. If it's 50 or less, it's a yes. If it's 51 or more, it's a no. Now, to add some spice to the dish, 10 or less is an extreme yes. So not only does it happen, but an extra benefit comes with it, whether or not it's negative for you. 90 or more is extreme no. So not only is the answer no, but there is some empty void to fill with that no. There is more to the no. So like I said, The best example I can say, 50-50, is that door closed, you roll a 95. Sorry, is that door locked, you roll a 95. Not only is it open, but there is something behind that door waiting for you. That's where the no and adds. So it can simply just be, if you roll a 75, it's a no. That door is not locked. You can open it and go from there. You can adjust the percentage based on chance. So you're in a dungeon that's been unexplored for years. So if you ask, is there something in the first room? Chances are 75% chance. Chances are higher. So you roll within 75, then it's a yes. There's also the blackjack method. Flip it. So if your yes is closer to the number, or no closer to the number, then it's a stronger answer. Again, 75% chance, maybe 65 or up is a stronger yes, 85 or lower is a stronger no. There's some ways to tweak it. I will also put that video below where Deathstalker 5 explains the D100 Oracle. He goes into great detail about it, and I highly recommend it. So, that is really it for the video. I appreciate your time, and I really hope this did help answer some questions, motivate you, or if you just were curious how I approach oracles from time to time, then I appreciate your attention. Feel free to list below your favorite oracles, or what your thoughts are, what you hope to gain out of trying different oracles out there. And as always, I appreciate your conversation, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.